Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Heretic Hammer podcast. I am your host, Marshall, and this is my co-host, Dylan.
Hello, hello.
And today, we're doing a bit of a challenge. We've talked sometimes about customizing our armies the way we wish to. So today, I thought it would be a really fun kind of mishmashy quick exercise to we together are going to design and build a custom Space Marine chapter.
Oh.
So we're going to go down the list of kind of like baseline things. Honestly, I'm going to be real transparent. Most of this is from the list of ways or how you can put your custom Space Marine chapter onto the Warhammer 40K fandom website.
Okay, this is like a how to draw anime book they would pick up at like a Joanne's or something.
But it hits. Rest in peace. It hits everything that you need it to, right? It hits the main points, especially for making a video like this, where we're not gonna suddenly make, you know, all of the former chapter masters that once existed and other heroes
just
all within like an hour and a half or so. I mean, or even potentially, hopefully not two. So
we're probably not gonna make the crayon eaters.
No,
you know, we'll try to do our.
I mean, somebody made that. Yeah, we gotta. I mean, we can be semi-derivative. You know, or like, you know, if we can be inspired by other media and whatnot, but we should.
I mean, that's how Blizzard did it.
I mean, that's how Warhammer 40K did it. Dude, we could do an entire episode of all the things that they got inspired by from Doom, or not. Yeah, not Doom, Dune.
Should have been Doom. We'll save that for.
Well,
June,
you know, maybe some parts of Doom. Yeah, true, right?
We'll do a tie-in.
Yeah, where do we see all the Warhammer 40K references?
They're going
man in power
to
armor.
Dark Ages, though.
Yeah, man in power armor uses sword and shield for some reason.
Yep, there you go. But that's not what we're doing today.
Correct. So we're going to start off. We're going to kind of go this list, just kind of down a list. So, you know, I think one of the kind of basic places to start, right, is kind of what is this chapter's parent legion / you know, where does our gene seed come from, you know? And some of this will maybe change then where our founding is, right? Like, because for example, while there are maybe some purists that would say otherwise, there's definitely been some allusion to the fact that Belisarius Call, in creating a number of the Primaris founding chapters, you know, might have maybe accidentally or on purpose, we don't know, slipped in some traitorous Primarch gene seed into a couple of chapters.
What?
Yeah, that's obviously hugely conjecture in theory, but there have been chapters where like people have kind of pointed out like, are we sure this isn't like World Eater's gene seed? Because this is really, you know, this is really close. So we are not, so some regard, we could technically have it through the many of them, but I wanted you to somewhat be more knowledgeable on some of the loyal legions somewhat in mind, just because I felt like that might end up being kind of like maybe where we go.
Yeah.
But is there like a certain Primarch that you think that like we should kind of base these off of from the front? Because I have two thoughts, but I want to know if maybe you have an idea kind
I
of
mean,
in the chamber.
I mean, it depends on what our specific goal is for this chapter. What exactly it is that we do. We want them to be fully loyal. Like, do we want them
That
to
will
embody
be
the idea of like a loyal chapter, or
yes.
do we want them to be a little spicy? You know.
Well, now spiciness is a little bit in the eye of the beholder, but this will, in the end,
There's no
still
beholders
be.
in 40K.
This will, in the end, still be a totally loyalist chapter, right? They will.
Okay.
By the time we're done with this, and we maybe come up with like a baseline, they are still going to be loyal to the Imperium and the Emperor through and through, and fight for the good of mankind. Not the greater good, but the good of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, I think, some of the ways that you could think about it is maybe like, what was like from the kind of parent legions, was there maybe some Primarchs that you kind of had like certain personality traits that maybe you attached to, or were there certain tactics in some of them, or is there just a Primarch themselves that you're kind of attached to?
I got a couple. I don't think they're the ones that you would be expecting from me. I would say first and foremost, wild as it may seem, I was looking at Jagatai Khan and the White Scars.
All right. Yeah.
Caught you a little off guard with that one, huh?
Maybe not as much as you think, but we'll go on.
Okay. And then I was also looking at the Salamanders.
Mm-hmm.
That might have even been first just because I was looking at them earlier. But yeah, the Salamanders I was looking at a lot. Just the ones, really, it's the ones where like the chapter, the Primarch for that chapter had a very clear goal. They had something that they were trying to do, and then they disappeared in the process of committing to that goal. And the chapter didn't just like fall apart. Like, it's continued on even without that Primarch being there.
Which is funny because with that, I mean, if you were to say that, a lot of people would be like Space Wolves, because they almost got better when their Primarch disappeared.
Yeah, Space Wolves would be a good one too, definitely.
But so I was that all of them, by the way?
Those were the main ones that I was thinking of. Yeah.
So I kind of came into this, I was like, I kind of want to do something either White Scars or Raven Guard.
Yeah, Raven Guard would be cool too.
Because my thought, kind of knowing us a little bit, was that we would kind of like stuff that's maybe like vehicles.
Yes. And with the White Scars, if you recall, if everybody recalls all the way back when we did sort of talk more about the White Scars, I was super into their vehicles. Yeah, I guess with the Ravens too, all the stuff they did with flight, that was really cool also. Man.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
The Outrider bikes, I feel like,
they're so cool.
That's the thing, yeah. Like, because there's a not small like group of people that really don't like the design of the Outrider bikes. And honestly, like, I can kind of understand why there's maybe a distaste for it. But like, I don't know, I like the kind of big chunky ATV motorcycle look. It just kind of is cool to me.
I do too. I think they're really cool.
And I mean, like, I always, the Raven Wing, I mean, this is obviously Dark Angels, but like,
but it's got more of that like chopper look to it as well.
Yeah. And like, I mean, if you want like the chopper design, I mean, that would be the Chaos Bikers, who have a very like choppery design, which maybe I am a little bit slightly less so on the Chaos Bikers.
Sure.
Versus the Outriders, who have like a very the Outrider bikes to me kind of do read like heavily industrial Akira bike, like
yes, the very pronounced fenders that cover like a lot more of the wheels. The wheels are a lot more obscured. That it definitely lends itself more to that like retro sci-fi type look.
but like still very like, yeah, like, but still hitting that very industrial, like,
yes. Yeah, I say retro sci-fi because it's
design.
hitting that like 80s, sort of design ethos for like the quote unquote like distant future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, do we want to just go White Scars? Kind of one that we both had a thought on?
It's because it's the one we both had a thought on. I feel like that's probably where we should go. It was my first pick.
All right. Yeah. I mean, like, I definitely like, because I think I just had the thought of like something that could be like really cool with it. So from that, then we can kind of decide, like, do we want this to specifically then just be like a very new chapter where it's just Primaris founding? Or would we want them to kind of have like a firstborn presence where they'd have like maybe a little bit extra history, and maybe they would have things that would be more greatly affected by vicariously through the Cicatrix Maledictum forming?
Is there like an inherent benefit to doing one or the other?
With the
or even disadvantages?
Because we're at least in a scenario now where we are working on it, or we're going based on the White Scars. It's probably a little bit less so. I would say our main thing would be the number, which we haven't talked about a crazy amount, would be we wouldn't have to necessarily worry about trying to figure out, maybe if we like thought of this down the line, like how did then maybe that crossing of the Rubicon go, right? Because some chapters were, and maybe still are, kind of hesitant to it. A really of like, I might be misremembering this offhand, but I believe a lot of the members of, I wanted to say the Black Templars, but something about it doesn't feel right. Shoot. Yeah, I can't think of it. But there are a couple of chapters that, yeah, have been a little bit more hesitant. Despite especially the kind of very clear greater power that it has given. But that inherently could be somewhere, right? Like, where maybe did that go, right? Like, where, at what point maybe did they kind of get a little bit, or did they have to grow to accept it, or that it became more accepted? Then similarly with that, that could go into realms where like maybe they have a much older ancient, right? So like maybe if they were closer to like the 6th founding, kind of a random one, Okay, so here, like for the 11th founding, for example, or the 10th, 11th, and 12th founding specifically. So these 3 foundings have one thing in common. They occurred during the Nova Terra Interregnum. I don't know if I said that right. A time of extreme unrest and civil conflict in the Imperium, when the Council of Nova Terra declared independence from the rule of the High Lord of Terra and took the whole Segmentum Pacificus with them. So what can you expect from a chapter created during these foundings? You can expect them to be battle-hardened. In addition to being founded during a period rife with civil conflict, it was said that the Imperium founded these chapters out of a need to stabilize its borders. Thus, chapters of these foundings have a good chance of being posted in or near volatile, dangerous areas that the Imperium felt they needed more firepower. Otherwise, let's see, I was going to say, I think we definitely should not do. I don't know, maybe we could. Actually, maybe we could. So there's the 21st founding, which is one of the kind of like a dark founding, where, so this specific founding saw a large number of chapters that found themselves more greatly plagued by their gene seed flaws. So to note this, so they believed that their understanding of genetics would allow them to make better chapters, and so tempered with the blessed gene seed of the Astartes. Turns out they were dead wrong. An overwhelming portion of the chapters created during this founding developed drastic mutations. Those that didn't often suffered great calamity and misfortune. When everything was said and done, a good portion of this founding was either disbanded or purged. In the eyes of the rest of the Imperium, the Mechanicus, and their hubris tried to improve upon the Emperor's design and rejiggered things. I love that they put that in there. Things that they had no business jiggering. Man, whoever wrote this, good on you. Within the first place,
just smack them with the wrench, get the heater going again.
Yeah. So thus the Emperor cursed this whole batch of Marines. Thus the name Cursed Founding.
Okay, so maybe we don't do the Cursed Founding. Maybe we stay away from that one.
If we wanted to have something that was, I was gonna say, if we wanted something that kind of set them to be like very, because there are some chapters in this that are still around. The Black Dragons are, as far as I know, still around. They are a little bit, they're under the eye of the Inquisition pretty frequently, because they're the chapter, I think we talked about it, where they have like the retractable like dragon bone stabbers and out of their forearms. They're like one poker Wolverine.
Baraka, yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's actually better. Yeah, Baraka. Otherwise, and then they also have the Lamenters, who are very loyal. Which at some point we definitely need to talk about them, but they have literally the worst luck imaginable. Like literally,
it feels like saying something considering the universe that we have been talking about.
Yeah, it's somehow for some reason, I don't know if they're cursed by Gene Seed. They're just cursed to have the worst possible luck that this universe could possibly give them. Right, like so, chapters who are founded within the Primaris, they're definitely going to be twofold, right? They're going to be somewhat young and inexperienced. They're not going to have the history and knowledge of the universe that any of the other chapters are going to have that came before them, right? I mean, because especially given that they pretty much forget their entire life before they become a Space Marine, they obviously depending on some chapters, but like for the most part, most Space Marines are kind of lost to the life that they had previously. So, there are then those that may then not truly understand how the Cicatrix Maledictum came to be, right? And not fully grasp how that happened. I say some because others obviously may very well, maybe some because you were born into it, are given way more information like you should hate chaos even more because this happened, right? You exist because we have to fix that, So there's two realms you could kind of go in that, but like especially the inexperience is one of the biggest thing that always shines through on Ultima Founding Astartes, is that they don't have that lifelong experience. So maybe it's certain Xenos, they fail, they falter to, they never seen the Necrons before. It's not in their records. And then all of a sudden, here they are. So that's the type of thing that kind of makes it maybe a little bit tougher to look into that.
It's tougher, but it does kind of also make it a little interesting having that kind of uncertainty to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely not against maybe some of the tougher foundings, but I think for now, if we wanted to, we can just decide, do we want them to have Firstborn or Primaris? And then from that, maybe we could decide if we wanted to be like a more strifing, have more aspects with their gene flaw to come in. I kind of may have to double check here in a moment what Jagatai's gene flaw was, or at least has shown to be. But otherwise, moving forward. But that's kind of we would start, right? Is this, do they have Firstborn Marines? Or are we only Primaris?
I like the idea of a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a totally new chapter.
I think I like that because I think it's a lot of, I think it's one of those things that really, I think it's forgotten in a number of stories, is that thing of like, they have, like, it's like, yes, in record, we have faced these before, or we have done this, where it's just like, there's not likely a Primaris or an Ultima founding chapter that's even gone into the Death Watch potentially yet, or at least maybe like they're literally just getting into the Death Watch, so not many that there's likely not to be any that may or may not even have returned right from their first service into the Death Watch. So like, that's a big thing where like, I think you can really kind of show maybe sometimes it's like one of those things where it's like the reminder story of like, hey, you want to know why that experience that like the Ultramarines have matters, right? Because it's really easy to look at an Ultramarines and be like, wow, those losers, they're so good at everything. And it's like, yeah, do you want to remember why they're good at this stuff? It's because they've got experience. Here's a story about how this chapter got their ass beat by the Necrons. I mean, honestly, when there's a day that we talk about some of the like lost chapters, that will be a common thing is this chapter died because they thought they could take on a tomb world. The answer is they were wrong. So yeah, I like that. I think we could do that for sure.
Yeah, let's do new.
All right, we'll have only Primaris founding. I'm gonna have a thing for that actually when we get to some of the design stuff later. But I kind of think it might make for something that'll be fun for like a point of contention when we get to the second part of that.
Okay.
So now though we can decide if we want them to remain Codex compliant or not. Because obviously, like it may seem weird, right, for something that's a White Scars chapter to not be Codex compliant. But it wouldn't be the first time, right? Like, for example, the Black Templars are founded based off of the Imperial Fists, who are Codex compliant, but the Black Templars are not.
Right. This is where I was talking before about like getting a little spicy with it. If we maybe wanted to have them be, because especially with it being like a new chapter, I'm thinking about like what's motivating them to 100% adhere to the Codex in the first place.
Yeah, I think the tough part about that with Primaris is that you're kind of founded off the Codex, right?
Yeah.
So it's like well, what else can you be but Codex compliant almost, right? Like that's where I kind of wonder where, like, what is drawing them to it. My kind of answer to that was like, probably, if anything, it's just because they're coming in a time where, well, no, actually, I take that back. I'm going to take back everything I was about to say.
Okay.
Because it has been heavily implied that Gilliman kind of regrets the Codex Astartes. He doesn't regret everything about it. He just maybe kind of realized maybe some things were a little much. Like maybe it wasn't necessarily the, like, I think some of the things were right at the time, but maybe shouldn't have been held to stone.
Yeah.
And so we could maybe look at it where maybe with this chapter, maybe they decided that they were going to, because I mean, being Codex compliant can literally just be that they have way more bikes, right, than a normal chapter does. So by that regard, we could absolutely just be like, maybe this is one of the chapters where Gilliman wanted to be like, let's experiment a little bit.
Yeah, it's not about like completely upending the ethos of the Codex in the first place. It's more so just like, where can we find these tiny little places to sort of stretch the limbs out a bit more?
And I think there are at least a number of Codex compliant chapters that do so, but I think there are probably ways that we could stretch it further to make it clear that it's non-compliant,
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So, okay, we're kind of beginning to reach into this next point, but that's going to be like, what is kind of the special tactics that we kind of want them to utilize? And this can be maybe a couple things, right? We don't have to just be like one thing, you know? And I kind of had the thought, this is maybe a little bit of my Eldari brain kind of floating here. But obviously, other than the vehicles, right? I thought maybe a mix of vehicles and long range snipers. Thoughts?
Agreed. I was going to say, I was like, the vehicle thing is almost a given at this point because it's obviously something that really attracted us to the White Scars in the first place, but also the weaponry should accommodate that type of mobility. It should definitely be long ranged, and like sniper in particular makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, because my thought is like you have your front line, right, is all kind of, it's just like this slew of vehicles like ATVs, bikes. I mean, even like kind of jet speeders, like flyers,
warthogs, banshees.
But, you know, kind of like in Halo, actually, there's always those people in the back by the point with the sniper rifle. And they're looking, they're ready to pop any of the infantry that tries to sneak through and get around the vehicles.
Right.
So it's like it's almost like some of the vehicles can almost kind of like round up and wrangle the enemies. And then they just get like pot shotted by the long range capable, like the long range capable units.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I think
absolutely down for it,
and thus I think maybe as a part of that, it's kind of in a similar thing, but then probably, I mean, so like I was gonna say, so we're definitely kind of going into like different types of assault tactics. So they probably not only use like a good number of assault marines, but this would be then like also probably like a semi decent number of jump pack units. Because like assault marines are like very, they're kind of just like intercessors, but most of them only have a bolt pistol. I think some of them can use a bolt gun because they're space marines, but then also have, but then, you know, obviously run at him with chain swords or power weapons.
Yeah, that would work.
So then next up, we should kind of look into some of the like colors and like design of this chapter. Now, because what is very true, especially if Space Marine 2 has taught you anything, it's that successor chapters can truly be whatever color you want them to be.
Okay, so we're getting into the actual colors now themselves.
Yeah, well, some of the like, you know, like emblem design, filigree. What do we kind of like want there? We're going to get a lot more now and kind of into some of the
important
like, identity.
We got to establish, I feel like off the rip, it's got to be like the first thing. We're basing this off of the White Scars, but do we want our base color to be white as well? Or do we want to go for something else?
I don't know. I kind of feel like we could go for something else, you know?
How funky do we want to get with it? Is there precedence? Hear me out, everybody that's been into Warhammer for far longer than I have. Is there precedence for gradient coloring on Space Marine armor?
Not in lore, but that doesn't mean people haven't done it. But because usually most designs end up getting, so like people have done it in their own paint jobs.
Was there anything in the codex that was like, thou shalt not have a gradient,
no,
like magenta that fades into like a periwinkle blue or anything like that?
No, I think the number one reason the GW just hasn't been one to press on that is because I think partly it's just that it's a lot easier to sell paint jobs and like tutorials and people on the hobby when by default you keep all of your named things relatively simple paint jobs. Like, for example,
just a solid color.
Not even that, but just like, even if it's like, for example, like one of the like if you're in Space Marine 2, right, you can change the pattern options for some of the colors. And so like you can have it where it's like, the chest plate of your Space Marine goes straight down the middle.
Okay.
That's obviously like a thing where it's just like, like that's something where it's like, that's a clear line though, right? It's a lot easier to maybe like teach somebody, go halfway down the torso and then paint one half one color and one half the other color. It might be best to be a little, maybe have some solidness, but here, let's do this actually. Let's boot up. Let me actually get up. I kind of had it ready, but like we'll actually do it for real. Let's get into the Space Marine 2 creator.
Yeah, that's a good place to.
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at. So I grabbed this is just because I flunk around the thing. I actually started it on a White Scar Marine. I might hate myself for this later, but I feel like we did. I feel like we might have done ourselves a disservice to not start by talking about maybe some of the origin aspects.
Okay.
Because maybe that will influence our color choices. Right. If we think about the home,
so that's
the
like
home of these
the home
Marines.
world. Like we need to work out the home world first, maybe, and the home planet and that.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think we should think about that, because the first thing that we can decide, right? Do we want them to be a fleet-based or a planet-based chapter? Meaning,
I like
something
the idea.
Happened.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like the idea that they were from a planet and then something happened to that planet.
Yeah,
that interests me.
Yeah, I think that makes it fun, and I think it adds to the culture of mobility, because their world is mobile.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's maybe think about what was the home world. So like, honestly, we're Primaris founding, so we wouldn't want it to be strictly, because it destroyed because of the cicatrix, because the world would technically have been there at the start of the founding of this chapter. They will only exist in some, like, mainly, their chief existence will only be in Imperium. I think it's Primus, obviously inside the warp tear,
Yeah.
So not being cut off, not being an Imperium Nihilus, which I guess would have been the other portion of what could have been our story, would have been like, if they were non-Primaris founding, we could have them dealing with things on the other side of the break, which I didn't really make mention of. But I think we're fine to live still in the normal Imperium, because there's still shit that goes wrong.
Yeah.
And worlds have still been lost on this side of the Imperium. So we could have them be close to the Cicatrix Maledictum, where they were founded to be part of that kind of wall of defense to that kind of outer rim of planets that are just around, where the tear is. So consistent besiege from the forces of chaos. Or do we want them to have their ass kicked by some form of Xenos?
I was thinking about Xenos initially.
Yeah.
But I don't know which Xenos I have in mind for that.
I think it'd be really fun, because I don't think they get used as often. So we could go two routes. We could go the very kind of White Scarsy route, and somehow through certain whatever aspects, they got just demolished by Drukhari, because the ancient enemy of the White Scars is the Drukhari.
Right. Yep.
Hence Jagatai is fucking just
I'll chase you to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, just running into the webway. But my other thought was it would be really cool or I think it'd just be really fun, if anything, to do that it could be the Necrons. We didn't know it was a tomb world.
Ooh.
So it just became about escape. And like one day we will reclaim that planet.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not, I mean, it could be inherently, it's not out of the question for it to like have been exterminatist either. But we could also leave it open where it's like, we will regain our planet. That's like the number one goal they have, you know? So what do you think? Do you think, cause like the Drukhari thing could work for some of the mobility things because that's kind of how the Drukhari work, right? They have hypermobile units and then they have a bunch of long range, especially with their scourges.
Yeah.
But then the Necrons would just be kind of like that fun thing because it's a little bit more realistic that a whole planet be taken by them, or at least I should say like maybe a little bit more expected.
Yeah, how easily could the Drukhari just take over a planet like that?
I mean, they would, if they often did it, it would be through some form of, they would have kind of gotten in, and then what they would have done was then kind of destroyed the population of the planet whilst the Marines were away, right? So it would have been a thing where like since the founding of the chapter, the Drukhari hounded this planet like crazy. Like it was just like a mix of getting just bashed in by chaos from the Cicatrix Maledictum, and then all of a sudden when there was a break from that, the Drukhari would then show up and just try to take people, you know, and just raid.
Right.
So then and then maybe what happened was like we were called to war. You know, we were called to help, to assist brothers in this segment. But that obviously, because our chapter was so small, that meant that we were so small that most of our fleet had to go assist.
Okay.
And those that were left were not enough for them like the Drukhari deciding this is our moment and launching a crazy sized raid.
Seize the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the chapter was pretty much gone, save for, a few dozen units.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because otherwise, obviously, the Tomb World is just like, bro, they woke up.
Yeah, it was just E-Day. It was just a matter of time.
And we are not at the size of a chapter to take on an entire Tomb World by ourselves.
Yeah,
just no way. But both give us a mortal enemy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But are you still thinking kind of the Drukhari one?
I'm still thinking Drukhari on this.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. I think that's a very fitting White Scarsy. It's it really upholds homage to our father.
Yeah,
our distant father. The thing. So then, because some of this we should kind of get into some of the, what do we think maybe the world could have been like? You know, do we think that maybe this was a very maybe before we were founded, was this an agri world that we were kind of set to defend? Was it a hive world? Was it a what's the word? Shrine world. So very filled with churches and essentially almost like hive cities centered around a cathedral.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
So we'd have, if it were to be like a shrine world, right? I feel like that would kind of set us to be very kind of set to being, a little bit having that close relationship with the emperor kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a strong motivation for why we want to take it back in the first place.
Right. Well, I would say maybe in some respect, because with the Drukhari one, if it was all the people are gone. I think it might be one of those where like it ends up being like maybe we return to it, but otherwise for now we are just a fleet-based chapter and just roaming around. Because like the thing is Drukhari taken leave, right? So like if they just decided they're going to cause us a great pain by just destroying everyone on this planet, then we just kind of decided like there's nothing left for us here, time to pack up, put my backpack on, new homes out in the world, or in the universe. No, they don't really live in any, they don't like live in these settled or like real space worlds. They just kind of like, they essentially just kind of like come in and out through Kamora in the webway, you know?
Okay.
So it's kind of more just like that they would have somehow like, it would be a scenario where like they would have rendered it where like the going back to the world was just not worth it anymore. So we still exist as a chapter, but that world has been rendered like worthless essentially to the Imperium.
Okay. We had to move on.
That would be the more way that it would work if it was the Drukhari.
All right. I don't want to lose the Drukhari on this. I do want to keep.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to do that.
Rival.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to do that. But I think then with that thing we can kind of get to is like maybe via that, maybe it didn't have a lot of people, so maybe it was something like more like an agri world, that maybe like lost its like night house or something like that. And they were like, this is a really important agri world. We want to use, and this is right next to the Cicatrix Maledictum though. So we want to make sure that this is protected. And then, 40K things happened. And then they're like, because there's only like 6 people on the, obviously it's more than that, but like, you know what I mean by like, compared to a hive world, the Drukhari are way more willing to maybe be like, hey, you know what? We don't like you. So we're just going to take all of your people this time.
Yeah.
You guys are all gone and we'll burn your crop. What is it? They're going to burn our crops. Oh, what is it?
Oh, the SpongeBob meme?
Yeah.
Poisoned our water supply.
Oh, yeah. And put a plague onto our houses. He did?
No, but are we going to wait around until he does? Yeah.
Well, our answer is yes. Yes, they did. Yes, they absolutely did.
We'll make it a definitive answer and say yes.
For our scenario, it's yes, they did. From that, then I would say, I think then that's where our kind of vehicle thing could come from, right? Like we had a lot of open space. So like moving across the planet became very important. And then being able to then move in to quickly go to quick defenses was then thus just as important.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm kind of curious because maybe I was trying to think like maybe something we could kind of think of, right? Is like something where like maybe like our identity kind of is similar to that of like protective farm animals, kind of like that. Or like because initially I was maybe thinking when we were going into our tactics at first, I was like, maybe we can work because we're like quick and precise. So my thought was like cheetah, like some type of bird or owl.
Yeah. You know what? If we're talking, because a lot of birds, there's not a lot of like particularly protective birds so much as they are more so predatory.
Yeah.
But an owl, something like a barn owl.
A barn owl.
A barn owl makes sense. Yeah, I think they are called. I mean, they've got a bunch of different names. That's the other interesting thing about barn owls in general, is that like you can go all the way back to like their Latin names, where it was literally just like this is a white owl, and then there's also a bunch of other names that they've gotten throughout history.
Right, because obviously this like they were church owl. Yeah, it's like because they would just go into abandoned places. I found our source. Owl brand discovery kits. We love barn owls because they are important allies to farmers. They are natural pest control. Farmers often face the challenge of rodents destroying their crops.
Yes, they specifically get mice and rats.
Yep. Our pests were the Drukhari and Chaos.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. They serve a similar purpose as to like a barn cat, where it's like the farmers want them to stick around because they are a natural predator to a lot of those smaller like rodent animals that would like affect their crops directly.
Yeah.
And also a deterrent to other birds of prey, which is like why people put up fake owls to deter, like hawks or falcons and things like that. It's what we do for a chicken coop back home, is we have a fake owl set up to deter hawks from showing up.
Ooh. Yeah, all right.
I'm telling you, we can cook with this barn owl thing.
Yeah,
I feel like we really can.
I like this. So we've got a world. So the world is so we'll do agri world, right? So that way there wasn't as many people. So it being destroyed was even more devastating. So like mobile for like, obviously for distance and coverage. Now I think we can kind of take that step back then. So we've got some of our iconography leading into that barn owl aesthetic. Now, while there may not be the prominent barn owl icon in Space Marine 2, once again, we can do what we want in that regard. So let's not worry about that. I'll just do this for that sake. So, but yes. Okay. So we're going to have this very kind of our identity, I think we can work on is this barn owl thing. So do we want to have that kind of, we could kind of do that like mix of brown, because we could do even more with just like doing like segmentive design, like color design, right? Cause we could. Barn owls are fairly light brown,
Yes, I think a lot of people look at obviously you look at them and you're like, oh, it's a white owl, and that's carried on in the etymology. But yeah, there's absolutely it's not a dark brown, but there's like a light brown feathering to them as well.
Man, I wonder, does GW have a paint that matches this concept? Granted, this isn't the entire GW paint range either. I can think of a very specific color that I use on my sisters that is in this game either. So, but over here, so we could kind of start with this Retributor armor. But then, so if we get into, say, the helmet, one of the things you can do is like this. So then you've got this and we could have a very I don't know what color eyes do barn owls have. They're like black, which makes sense for most owls, especially I imagine they're similarly nocturnal like many owls are. So could do that. We could do black.
I would be down for black. Black would be cool.
Kind of like this, where you get and then we could do we could do this white face here.
Yes.
No, it's different.
Yeah, we should do black because barn owls, people's being completely black, anyways.
So, but yeah, I was gonna say we could add to that, so we could still have it maybe just the chest is white.
Ooh,
here,
chest white, and the appendages are.
Trying to see what some of the other whitish ones are. Yeah, they're pure white. This the white scar makes I think sense here. But yeah, so you kind of get this. Yeah. And again, we could do. We could kind of really futz with some of the stuff. So we could kind of play with maybe how we want where we want maybe some of the arm parts to go. So while these are brown, maybe certain portions of this.
Yeah, it could be white. We could alternate or
one of the things we could do is we could do something where we could create where part of their paint scheme has somewhere on it is essentially what maybe they keep as a mark of shame.
Oh,
so maybe they use for example, I'm not saying we commit to this, but for example, a red hand where it's this is the, this is the blood of those that they had failed, or or in the world that was destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, or even something like black, or even something like black. It's a thought. It doesn't have to definitely doesn't have to be kept for sure, but it's just a thought, like something we could think into. But I mean, otherwise, yeah, I mean, we could determine maybe how we want to flavor this. Where else do we think is a good spot to put some of like the white?
I was thinking about if we want to do, because I gotta look up more barn owl images here. I'm trying to look at where the brown is located in relation to
very much like the back and wings.
Yes, yeah, top of the head, on the wings.
Yeah, there's not as many images from barn owl from the back. Oh, I just had a really bad thought. I'm not gonna make mention of it.
Hey, we probably had the same bad thought, and I'm also not gonna say anything.
There's some black in it though.
That yeah, because there's like a spotted pattern to the wings.
Yeah,
with a little bit of black in there. Yeah.
Let's see. I wonder. I mean, that's something that could definitely be done on like on a real paint job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you maybe put like, you sponge black on like the arms and torso. Unfortunately, you don't get a great usage of that here. That's something you could do on like a real model. So you could like sponge paint black like on this and the backpack.
Mm-hmm.
But we could do it maybe like, yeah, so we could make like maybe the greaves white.
Yeah, make the greaves white, and then,
and we don't have to like perfectly mirror a barn owl. We can have like
we don't have to, but yeah.
It's a thought. This is just at least the thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can have the flame pattern. Ooh. Thoughts on.
I like that. Yeah.
It's just a fun like cool shift with the coloring.
Yep.
Because obviously, yes, the whole of like the body, the barn owl torso is the white going into feet, but
yes,
you know, again, more just trying to get into that realm of like, we kind of have somewhat of our baseline color concept. Now we just want like, now it's about making it feel cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do we want maybe to do some of that, something like that kind of mark of shame thing? I mean, that could even go to the point
if
where
we
maybe it's
do,
like an icon.
I like the idea. Yeah, it could either be an icon or having it be like one of the legs, but it's not like a new color being painted on. It's the existing color like fading over time. Like there hasn't been any upkeep done on it.
Got it. So it'd be, I mean, maybe not to necessarily do it, but like something like kind of like in this realm where like,
yeah,
it's getting into that realm where it's like getting into its just pure like steel look.
Yeah, it's reverting back to just like that solid steel look instead of being painted.
I don't know. There's something weird to me about it just being like the torso though, or not the torso, like the thigh.
Yeah.
But
no,
I
would think more so. I would think more so lower leg if we were to do something.
Oh, the more of this part.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, maybe it kind of sits better where it's kind of that realm of like, this is what's going on.
And this is where it, you know, if I was like painting an actual model, this is where I would reintroduce that gradient concept.
Yeah.
So it would be a gradual fading.
Yeah. What I think you can also do that too.
Portion.
You could probably also do that a lot, even with some of the sponge painting similarly, kind of like what we're saying with the black.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of experimenting with how it looked on the hand. I like the leg though. Yeah, I like the leg.
Yeah.
My leg. It's old. But that's a cool concept where it's just like, yeah, it's like because we have abandoned that world to now decay. this part of our armor will similarly be left.
Yeah, these
left
feet that
unkept.
once stood on that planet are now beginning to decay.
And this is also your like partial sign for how long you have served, is how faded this is.
Yeah, totally.
So like if it's pure white, you're fresh. Mm-hmm. But if it is, because like the rest of this, we'll have maybe like the rest of this does kind of get maybe kept up a little bit, but it's to draw the attention to the fact that this is going away.
Yes.
That's cool. I like that. I like this. This is a cool like starting point, or like kind of like like base design. And then like from like this would be like a very basic look to it, and then like you could add more like stuff to it. Like for example, here let me put this in here. Let me put this in the universal one, because then like say there was something like this, like with an assault marine, and then it's like. Then you could do like the other shit could have like other stuff in it, right? Where it's like,
yeah.
Like these just have all these different realms and like color designs and all that. Like that could be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very cool looking with all the like the filigree on it.
Yes.
Which that partly is kind of a question though, right? Like what would be kind of some of the filigree concept, And I'm definitely going to kind of utilize the Assault Marine here because it's the one I have the most unlocked for. So you can kind of futz with it a little bit. Oh, but then it has like for like an icon, like a chapter icon. I think like like the face of like a barn owl with like a weapon behind it. But like what would be like the weapon to put behind it?
Probably something long distance to match what they we have them using.
I was gonna say, I just know because like I don't think it's not crazy common that they put like a gun on these. Sometimes it'll be like it's something obviously like esoteric, like a lightning bolt of book, whatever, the Ultramarines logo. Mm-hmm. But wings, skulls, all that.
I was gonna say because I know you're not gonna be able to do it within the editor here, but the idea of like a white of like an owl that has multiple pairs of wings.
Why multiple pairs? I'm curious. Just a thought.
Because usually we think of owls as like a solitary predator that hunts alone, and that would signify that like has having multiple pairs of wings as if it is multiple owls that hunt together instead.
Mm.
Or like just go full acid trip with it, like a 3-headed owl or something crazy.
That would feel kind of like we're
just like go full metal T-shirt with it.
That would feel a little bit like we're secretly an Alpha Legion.
Oh yeah, that's true with the Hydra.
I kind of thought they maybe be like something kind of like I like how this is, where there is kind of like the owl, but with like a scythe or something behind it. Very farming,
Yes, because that is the original usage of the scythe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of a thought I did have.
Yes, the Falcons.
Yeah, so like I guess I don't know. I like the idea of the multi-winged owl. I mean, we could kind of combine the two still. Nothing stops us from combining the two.
Mm-hmm.
Having a multi-winged owl with the scythes behind it.
Nothing will stop us.
Okay, let's do that.
Nothing will stand in our way.
Yeah, so let's see. Like, what are some of the types of filigree we would want? Like, would we want maybe anything kind of this looks like mad eyebrows?
Ooh. Yes, I was gonna stop you right there. I was like, bro, eyebrows, the pronounced brow of the owl.
I was gonna say. So here's gonna be my thing: beaky helmets.
I'm down. It feels obvious, but also yeah, of course, like it makes sense.
Look, both the White Scars and the Raven Guard make heavy use of beaky helmets, even to this day.
Yeah, it tracks. Yeah. It tracks.
And I just love beaky helmets. They're my favorite. I can't not make a fucking like Space Marine thing like mine without it being some like a thing where a number of them have beak helmets.
You can
even though
sit here,
even though it's Mark 6.
You could
Like,
sit here
I
and
don't
give me
care.
lore after lore after lore reason for like why the beaky helmets would apply, or you can just speak the truth, which is that you like the beaky helmets a
Yeah.
lot.
Exactly.
Just speak your truth.
Okay, so we'll do beak helmets with
Yes.
This is more Laurel, but we would say, I think for ours we would do like feathered.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like, do we want them to have like a robe thing? Should they have the anime scarf? You know,
I do love me an anime scarf. I am a big Strider Hear You fan.
yeah. I mean, same brothers. The Sniper didn't have anything like that, did they? No.
No, it's more so a
This is the
cloak.
closest you get.
Yeah.
This is definitely the closest you get to that. Yeah, like this one's kind of close because it's like these two are, because it's kind of got that scarfiness. This one is a little bit more like cloaky looking though.
Yeah.
Where it's got this like it's not as much over the shoulders. And this doesn't have to be every one of them either. But this could be like, you know, snipers use heavy scarf, camellia line cloak. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm down.
Yeah. So we got this like very like avian and then caped or scarfed aesthetic. Okay. All right. So now we'll kind of get now into the final touches here. I think at this point, let's come up with a name. While we could pull the primo GW move of putting Barn Owl into an English to Latin translator. I feel like we maybe should think about it a little bit more.
Hear me out though. We don't. What if instead we put it into an English to Welsh translator?
Play them at their own game.
Yeah, they'll never see it coming. Unless they've been in any D&D campaign with me in the past 7 years.
I think Tihan Wen sounds a little funky.
Well, you know, go tell the Welsh that. I'm sure they'll take it well.
Let's see.
Time to get more creative.
And granted, we could be very English. I mean, the Iron Hands are the Iron Hands.
Yes. No, it's true. We could be as blunt as the White Owls, you know, but are there barns in Warhammer 40K?
I mean, in our Egger worlds, yes, technically.
Yeah. No, yeah, there's.
Okay, I tried searching owls on a gigantic list on Lexiconum for owls, and there is not a one.
All right. While you do that, I'm gonna type barn owl into the Wu-Tang name generator and see what we get.
Okay, baby. I don't know about that.
Listen, that's how Donald Glover got the name Childish Gambino, and it worked out really well for him. So I don't see why it can't work out well for us too.
Did he put Donald Glover into it?
I don't think he put his name. I think he just randomly generated it.
I mean, it could be like bronze owls.
I got to make sure I get the official
we have a lot of like a bronzy kind of color.
Yeah, so you got to enter in your name in order to generate it. So if we start with barn owl as our seed, not our gene seed. As we start as I got
Oh dear.
Artist excessive.
Okay.
Which honestly, true, relatable.
I mean, great
spitting facts.
Great artist name.
Yeah.
But Space Marine chapter, don't know. We could do something though like bronze owls.
Bronze owls would be cool because the actual paint job is a little more on the bronze side as well, that brown.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you especially made it very metallic-y. You could go pretty matte if you wanted.
Yeah, bronze owls would be sick. I think it would work a lot better than Iron Toad Crazy.
I think so.
I think your suggestion far better than what the Wu-Tang generator is giving me right now.
Yeah, I think so. I was gonna say, I think we can go pretty solid on it. It matches the like naming convention of white scars, right?
Yes.
Bronze
owls. Yeah, white scars, bronze owls. Yes.
All right.
So we should go with that, and then our listeners at home, feel free to submit any fan art of the Iron Toad crazy chapter if you've got a name made.
I mean, I feel like that's just the Iron Warriors that
it could be
that just got more into chaos experimentation. All right, are there any rivals, like especially like maybe we know the Drukhari, but like maybe
the Drukhari,
yeah, but like maybe is there
there.
were we plagued by a specific chaos warband? And I mean, hell, we could reserve this. We could leave it open, and then maybe when one day we make our own chaos warband, we make them the rivals. I think that's technically a faux pas in the Space Marine fanfic community, but
if it's a faux pas, let's do it. Remember, I'm new to all this. If you tell me don't press that button or don't eat that apple from that tree, I'm about to eat the apple.
I was saying, so I feel like I am also always ready. I'm always ready to start a fight about these things too. So
if we're talking about fan fiction, what are you doing putting rules in front of me? What are you doing?
Because this is
knocking
40K.
on my door and being like, technically that's kind of a faux pas. It's fan fiction.
True. But this is also like part of the fun about doing this in 40K is not that part, like you creating your own warband to be the rivals to your Imperial faction. But I mean more the following some of the rules is useful because it lets us have a grounded, unlike the bad fan fictions that we have read plenty of. It at least actually feels like a plausible thing to read. So do we want to do that? Do we want to hold off on the Chaos faction till we make one?
Yes, I want to hold off on it so that we can make our own in the future, and it can be led by Gerard Way.
Any specific friends that you think maybe we could have that there's a lot of chapters out there, so it could be hard, but like maybe you could describe like what's the type of Space Marine chapter that would be a good ally?
Do we want them to be, since we're basing them off of the White Scars, do we want them to be familial with them?
I mean, sure. Yeah, I think that could be the case.
I'd be down for that.
There could be, so that could be a thing though, where maybe I don't exactly remember how the White Scars feel about Primaris successors, but I do wonder maybe if because we failed our planet, that while we are allied with them, we always have a sense of guilt.
Yes. It makes the motorcycle meetups really awkward.
Well, it's just that realm where it's just like in the back of your mind, you're always kind of like, I don't know if I'll live up to them kind of thing. Like the big brother,
for sure.
Little brother, big brother syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He can hoop and I can't. Yeah.
All right. So
the pressure's on.
One of the final things we definitely need to get to is need to, specifically any of the defects. So
yes.
One that is generally denoted to stem from genetics that were tainted genetics from the Trigoris tribesmen. There have been a common number, like mutations has been a common thing, which could vary. These don't have to be huge, or these can be smaller. Mm-hmm. Some would maybe reckon that it could be good literary wise to maybe have some form of detraction from it. They are, I mean, I will note, like White Scar is known to be stable. Let's see. Yeah. So they're the wild savagery and thirst for war. Let's see. Trying to see about if there truly is. Yeah, it seems like a big thing though is just the ferocity. So like how much does ferocity, but I think, yeah, I mean, I wonder if there is technically, yeah, okay. One of the things I was thinking of, like maybe they have a mutation that gives them like a greater sense of night vision. I was trying to see if that's something I was like, I'm pretty sure there's something that Space Marines normally have, and it's just they essentially have low light vision. Indeed, yeah. I mean, as we have learned, though, I would note from the cursed founding, right? There is no technical sense that there cannot be a random mutation to any Space Marine chapter, but it's one that I feel should be small so that it would be potentially undetectable to the Inquisition. Because I feel like since the cursed founding, they were like, we are absolutely keeping a lockdown on this shit. Maybe we do kind of a thing where it's almost kind of like maybe it's kind of like a Black Ragey kind of thing. Maybe at night they end up with they tend to enter in. If they battle at night, they tend to feel that savagery more. Like if they are battling in the darkness. At night. Well, yeah. I guess they're in the darkness, right?
Oh, sure.
Like they feel uninhibited in the darkness, and thus they let loose.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that.
Well, and even then it's still less noticeable. Like most Inquisitors wouldn't look at that gene suit flaw as like, oh shit, we have a problem.
Yeah.
All right, then let's think of let's drum up just kind of quickly, because this episode needs to end. What is let's drum up like a chapter master. So what would we expect him to be like? Demeanor. Let's think of it what would his demeanor be like?
Quiet, not oft spoken, like man of few words.
Yeah, I think that's very fitting, especially in a lot of things. White Scarsy, right? That thought of that belief of your actions will show you, not the words you say. So they don't boast,
Right.
And then, I would say similarly, maybe they definitely are like a bike unit person. I feel like if they're going to be the chapter master, you got to be part of that grand identity of the chapter, which is the bikes, right?
Yeah.
We were really pushing the bikes from the start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we got a hold of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think he his, good, makes use of some good melee. It was funny. I had a thought, I was going to make a note earlier. I kind of forgot about it. I had a thought about using, just taking a small, if we were going to do this, this White Scars kind of, point that maybe they had kind of found / maybe modeled themselves to use kind of that or kind of model themselves around the Cataphractes style armor, which is this.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I just had a thought. I was gonna say, because then White Scars used to have a special unique Terminator unit.
Oh, okay.
And which means that if they are White Scars, if they are a special White Scars Terminator, that means they're a fast Terminator.
Yeah.
Which very is fucking quick. Scary to think about. I don't know how much you could utilize that in a modern 40K, because so much of that has been lost since the heresy. But I always think about that realm of the point of when they split them from chapters was that they were going to try to keep this stuff, and Call is trying to bring back things from the heresy, right? So there's Neo-Volkite weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he was I'm gonna experiment, and I found some of these shits laying around.
We'll start
the
with
Eben Keshig Terminators. I just thought this could be good. These could be a cool plating style, little samurai, but I thought it was just a cool type of plating. I also love Cataphracti Terminator armor.
Yeah,
I think Cataphracti armor is really cool. But yeah, I thought that could be a fun. Maybe that could be the type of armor he wears, because he's the special guy.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. It would really make him stand out compared to the other members of the chapter too.
Yeah, because it's like a relic, so like only only the chapter master wears it. Thus, you have to become chapter master to wear it.
Yeah.
I think like something like that could be cool with like having like a special design to him.
Let's do it that way.
Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of quiet. He does utilize the bike, but he's able to do so in like a relic cataphracti Terminator armor. So he's probably got like a special bike. That'd be a fun 3D print project. I guess, does he like use a special? Do we think, because like he's on the bike, so I feel like he should have like a special like melee weapon. Do you think something kind of like what the like Eben Terminators had, where it's kind of these like almost these kind of like partisan kind of things, or should it just be like a fancy sword, do you think?
Something with a long reach, I think, would be cool.
Okay, so we can do something partisan like that.
Claw shaped.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, he could just have long lightning claws.
That would be cool. Yes.
The thing that GW seems to be trying to get rid of in this freaking game, which makes me sad every time. That would be good. Yeah, lightning claw. Like he just uses like these lightning claws, so as he just kind of drives by, just like, and he can do it from either end. It's just when he retracts and extends them, and that works for Terminator armor. It's a common thing to have in Terminators.
Yeah.
All right, I like it. What should his name be?
His name is going to be.
We don't have to. I think it would probably not be good to have it with Khan in it. I think that's mainly just a very White Scars
I agree
thing.
Yeah, he's not that connected, but that's why it should be
oh no
as recommended by the Wu-Tang name generator.
Oh god.
it can only be. I need absolute silence for this. That includes everyone in the audience at home. I need you all to hold your breath. The name of this important pivotal figure in our chapter needs to be Tiger Fist Mad. In case anyone didn't hear it, Tiger Fist Mad.
I think a no on that one.
Well, I tried, I really did.
I know you did. And I feel for you.
And the Wu-Tang name generator, it didn't. So we're gonna close that out. We could do.
What's like a culture? There's
a lot of them.
What is it? No. So what do we think is a good like real world culture to base some of their life on? Because it doesn't just have to be the Mongolian part, right? Because while our gene seed has that Jagatai Khan aspect into it, which is obviously very Mongolian based from his home world.
What other cultures are we familiar with like a nomadic history to them?
Oh, a nomadic history. I mean, I don't know how nomadic like Eastern Europeans were.
Yeah, because I was thinking of like, I'm going to mispronounce this. For everyone at home, I apologize. I'm going to mispronounce this. The Sami or the Sami people that came from like northern Norway, or were at least like indigenous to northern Norway. It's kind of like the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Let's see, Sami, yeah.
Yeah, Sami.
That could be fun. So we could go with like then like a name that's kind of like Norwegian.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Ooh, Elf Carl, because Carl is utilized as is a masculine name meaning free man.
Ooh, yeah.
But we could, to remove the masculine part of that, be like, yeah, forget that. Free man.
Yeah, free man.
And then I had Alf because it seemed cool.
Rise and shine, free man.
Good God. Oh man. I mean, that are like Borre, Borre,
Ooh, that's good too.
or Ivanid, or Ivand. You know, Ivar, Ingar, Hein,
Ivar Bor.
Magnus,
Nah.
Lothar. That one's a little close.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No,
what are some of those?
We want something that is going to be, that has a little bit of meaning to it, that is also not potentially offensive to Norwegian culture in any way.
Correct.
And also is not like a super like well known or like obvious like quote unquote like Norse name.
Yeah, I mean, elf is very like, it's obviously based on elf.
Yes.
Which would be a fun irony.
I think that's cool. Honestly, I really like that.
You could go Alf Carl.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, like the like a Sami culture could be cool. Yeah, like a very good, like that would fit like a farming culture and stuff like that. All right, we've got our chapter master, Alf Carl, a quiet man, a few words, has a special bike unit where he is a melee specialist with his long lightning claws and the only member of the chapter to hold a relic cataphracti Terminator armor. I like it.
Yes.
I'm into it. And thus now we have the bronze owls, originally hailing. Oh, we don't have a name for our homeworld. You know, this is more of a thing where
Pluto 2.
It's not the reason this would have been named this at some point, but now it because GW does this all the time, where like a planet is named something that's more befitting to its current state rather than the state it was originally founded in.
Okay. All right. I have a proposition. I'm thinking I want it to be really simple. 2 to 3 syllables at the most. What about Nora?
Nora?
Yeah.
That could work. Okay.
It means honor.
Yeah, I think that works. All right. So we have the bronze owls, who originally hail from the world of Nora, an agri world that was constantly harassed by chaos and Drukhari. This world had fallen due to most of the chapter being taken away to assist in an engagement with another imperial conflict. Upon returning, the world was not only ransacked but effectively destroyed by the Drukhari, and with no people or crops left to recruit from, this chapter then ended up going and becoming a fleet-based chapter and recruiting from different worlds in order to fill out their ranks when needed.
Yep.
They are distinctly designed with a bronze kind of retributory brown kind of back on arms and shoulder piece, with white in the face and chest and kind of black spots a bit to cover around the bronze pieces, especially along the back. However, they are also denoted by a right greave that always will fade over time. Their banner is a barn owl face with multiple wings and a scythe behind it. They are well denoted by their many beak helmets and feathered eyebrows, quote unquote. And their snipers often utilize a heavy scarf camellia-lined cloak. They are obviously, as I alluded to, they are founded from the White Scars and are a Ultima founding chapter. They technically are non-codex compliant, but do not necessarily like ruffle the feathers of those who maybe would try to defeat this. But part of this was in a realm of Call and Gilliman going into maybe a little bit of a type of experimentation with their vehicles. Otherwise, they do specifically love to utilize vehicles and assault, jump pack, and rangers, as they love that mix of using vehicles to kind of rally and then long range to pick off. Otherwise, they are led by Alf Carl, a quiet man of few words, with his special relic cataphractii armor and long lightning claws. He also has a special bike that he utilizes to lead into battle. That's pretty sick.
That sounds like a Warhammer to me.
That sounds like a Warhammer to me. All right. That was fun. I loved kind of doing this little theory crafting session with you.
Yeah, that was sick.
I mean, this is a lot of times how my brain works whenever I'm thinking of like building my own army. So it's just kind of like a fun way to think of these things. And a good Loyalist Space Marine chapter is always a good baseline to do it off of.
Yeah.
I may not exactly do Alf Carl, but I think I may well try to, before this episode airs, maybe try to paint up an example model for this episode.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I think that could be a good go about. But all right, otherwise, next week we're gonna do a semi part 2, if you will. We are gonna go right from that Dark Mechanicum. We're gonna go into the Demon Engines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you were excited about it. I felt like we should go right into it.
Yes.
Not to tease you further. But all right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you and also for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.